Hi there, everyone. This is Stephen here. This is the next list. I think it's the 13th of 2026 for the Shortcuts Record Club. This list tonight is a really interesting classic rock and pop list, but I'm going to highly recommend that you watch the genre list that I'm doing right after this. It has got some cracking records. All right, this one starts off with something special as well. Now, for those of you who are new to the list, everything you see here will be for sale this Wednesday, April 1st at 9 p.m. sharp Sydney time. If you would like to be on the price list, click on the link in the description below or wait to the end and I'll give you my contact email. All right, now this list is predominantly Japanese, but there are a couple of really interesting exceptions. And I've got a band that I'm showcasing right at the very start, a band that you will all know, and one that's a bit of a Shortcuts legendary band, and a Shortcuts legendary recording to start with. One of the first ever Japanese records I bought, still on my shelf, and part of the reason this club started 5 years ago is the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street. Now, this is a kind of a unifold, so the records kind of go in there. It's in lovely condition, and it is the ESS 50049 variant, which I think is the best sounding Japanese variant. Now it's got both the things and it has the inner, and it is in wonderful condition. Now, part of the reason why I'm saying this is a showcase is I have a number of Rolling Stones records that I've kind of been saving up, but I wanted this one to start the ball rolling. Not only is it arguably their most iconic record, I think the only one really that is in the argument is Sticky Fingers with the magical Andy Warhol sleeve. And Sticky Fingers is great, don't get me wrong. But there's something about the murderous intensity of Exile on Main Street that I think makes it stand out. It is so messy. It has no clarity whatsoever. Maybe the only song that has clarity is, Soul Survivor, right at the very end, that they recorded actually not in that drug den in France. But I think they recorded it in New York or somewhere afterwards. There'll be someone out there who will know better than me. There is no clarity to this record. There is only feel and vibe and intensity, like I said, and a type of a kind of a high bar of music seeping from the microphone into another microphone, a voice, a noise, recreating this indescribable, indefatigable whole that stands unique. Even songs like, what is it? Is it Ventilator Blues? Even now I can hear it completely. The vibe it has, I can hear it in my head. There's one of these records, you just pick the song out and immediately, like Stop Breaking Down is just that groove. Blues, Shine a Light is one of the gospel songs that kills in this record. It's as good as You Don't Always Get What You Want, in my view. You get Tumbling Dice, Sweet Virginia. I just pick a track. Sweet Virginia, Torn and Fred. Amazing. Like, it just is. It's a legendary record. Legendary record. Now, there's something really special at the end of this showcase. So I'm going to flick through some of the other records here. All of these are beautiful Japanese presses. I've got one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums here now. This is Tattoo You, which of course was an early 80s compilation of some great songs that they recorded from their heyday in the 70s. And so, you know, this really does sound like something else, but I love that inner. Just wonderful. Great record, highly recommend it. Not expensive. Japanese record sounds great. Punchy as. Now, there's also this. Another Japanese first press. Another record that I like very much. It's Only Rock and Roll. I can't remember what year this came out, but again, got a really nice inner. If You Can't Rock Me, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Time Waits for No One, Short and Curlies. The last track on this Fingerprint File is a kind of a deep cut hidden gem, one of their longer tracks, nearly 7 minutes long. It's only rock and roll, but I love it. Now I'm going to pick out, as part of this showcase, a Japan. I think this is a Japan only release. This is Heartbreakers Rock and Shake, 14 tracks. Now I looked up some of these tracks. I think these are a compilation of some of their earlier kind of rock and roll tracks. So you get a cover of Susie Q, you get Poison Ivy, Around and Around. Some of these are pretty hard to find. They don't turn up on too many albums. I really like the photograph on the back. It's on the London label. I've not seen this one before, which hence why I was kind of surprised when I saw it in the box. But again, for you Rolling Stone completists out there, it's a really lovely thing. The details are below. L20P 1002. I also have, again on the London label, the earlier Rolling Stones records. This is Rolling Stones number 2. Very, very, very hard to find. In Japanese presses. Time's on My Side, of course, Under the Boardwalk. This one also features Susie Q. So I think that confirms that what's it called again? Heartbreakers Rock and Shake is an earlier compilation. Again, beautiful copy. But here's the thing that I think kind of really lets this showcase stand out. Look at this. This is the World Tour booklet from their World Tour that they did in 2002. It has the Japanese stickers that were part of whoever bought this at the time. And you can see they were given directions on where to go. And it folds out. It's as you might imagine, an absolutely beautiful thing. And the photographs are just spectacular. It's in lovely condition. I'm just going to see if there's anything here that stands out. There's a little showcase of Keith. It's got the tour dates down the back. So here's all of the kind of that whole 40 Licks scene for the first time ever, the 40 Licks tour. There are all the dates that they played and who the personnel were, what they did, the shop. This is all of the kind of Japanese stuff that was part of this. These things go for a lot online, and this one's in beautiful condition. So for those of you who love your Stones stuff, that's the Japanese booklet that accompanied the World Tour in 2002, 2003. How nice is that? All right. Was it five Stones records? Yeah, five Stones records. And a really interesting artifact. Now, this is up there with Exile on Main Street as my favorite record on this list, and maybe even just slightly trumps Exile on Main Street for me. I adore this record. Now, this is a UK press of Another Green World by Brian Eno. I'm just going to tear that sleeve. So you'll see here, made in Great Britain. It's got the pink eye, and that confirms, of course, it's on the island label. ILPS 9351. I will confirm whether it's a first press or not during the week. I suspect it might be a second or third press. Why is this record so special? Well, those of you who know me and know Shortcuts will know how much I adore the first five Roxy Music records, and Brian Eno's fingerprints were all over the first two, the self-titled and the really quite extraordinary For Your Pleasure. But by the mid-70s, his solo career was already kind of splitting into these two, I suppose, they're not quite tangents because they do overlap, but they're two distinct features. There's the ambient logic of what he was doing with the ambient series and how that became, pretty culminated in what's the album he did? Apollo, which I think is one of his greatest. But then he had this other stream, which I can only describe as fragments of pop songs that have an ethereal beauty that very few people have ever really been able to capture. And Another Green World is one of probably the best one or two albums where there's a fuzzy overlap between that ambient and the pop fragments. And so you get this album which really stands on its own as a singular achievement, and I think has become many people's favorite album in that kind of post-punk electronic minimalism view. I mean, it almost is another just killer soundtrack, but it is full of half songs, half places, ideas, things that obviously he tracked and then moved and lost. The sleeve, I think, gives you a real sense of the pastoral nature of it. Yet some of these songs are amongst the most meaningful for me. And you kind of wonder how he does it, because he has this kind of plaintive voice. He doesn't like his voice famously, but arguably he's a great singer. He's such a weird guy. Sky Saw that kicks this off. John Cale plays viola, and Phil Collins plays drums. So you have this almost noise rock thing, but it's not. It is more ambient than that, but it could be if that's what he wanted. It's just so cool. The Big Ship, amazing. My favorite song on the record, I'll Come Running to Tie Your Shoe. It just kills me. I love this record. I think it is wonderful, and if you don't have a copy, please give it a listen this week. All right, I've got a couple of records coming now that I think are amongst the best of these particular artists' canon, and these are two kind of singular artists. I'm gonna just very briefly touch on Under Blood Red Sky by U2 with the Obi. This was the first U2 album that I bought with my own money. I'd heard the live version of New Year's Day and I just decided I had to have it. I think it was around the time that Rattle and Hum came out. So it would have been, what was it, 87, 88? And so I'd heard Rattle and Hum and I'd heard Joshua Tree. And Victor, who was my piano teacher, had given me a cassette. And on the back of the cassette, he had recorded Under Blood Red Sky. And I loved it. I loved it more than I loved Rattle and Hum. So I started saving my money to buy it. Now I've got the same Japanese copy. This is a beautiful copy and a fantastic record. And I know there are plenty out there who think, you know, U2, you poo, but I don't. I'm not a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I have some appreciation of this record. This is Nebraska. This Japanese first press, even I can tell, is pretty awesome. I love the sleeves, the whole feel of it. It has something that he really doesn't capture in many of his records as far as I can tell. And in Atlantic City has a quiet anthem. All right, continuing with artists who have had massive careers and who had some stand-up records in the 80s. This is Hello, I Must Be Going, the Japanese gatefold of the Phil Collins record. I Don't Care Anymore, You Can't Hurry Love, of course. For those of you who are Phil fans, that Japanese copy is probably the best I have seen. I have also got a little bit of a prog masterpiece here as well. And one of the great sleeves, and this gets the full Japanese hard cardboard treatment. This is, of course, the King Crimson classic, In the Court of the Crimson King. You know, hard to believe this was released in 1969, considering just how bizarre it is. Has some truly wonderful pieces of music. I think the I Talk to the Wind and Epitaph finish of side one is really pretty much as good as it gets. And there are sections of 21st Century Schizoid Man that really kind of transcend music. I wonder, for most people, this is kind of entry, you know, the entry grade into prog as a genre. But when you follow the kind of noisy mentalism of Schizoid Man with that kind of pastoral beauty, If I Talk to the Wind, you know you're in the hands of a pretty special, if haunted, group. And, you know, really deeply interesting and weird band all the way through, to be honest. All right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go. This is the least vaunted in the Neil Young Ditch trilogy that features Tonight's the Night, On the Beach, and this absolutely great record, Time Fades Away. Time Fades Away is, without a doubt, Neil Young's most underappreciated album, in my view. It is seen by most as the least valuable of the Ditch trilogy. I just want to show you, it's got the full poster as well, which is pretty hard to find in condition as good as that. It is significantly underappreciated. Produced by Neil Young with Elliot Fraser, and Elliot Fraser does a great job with this album. And sure, it's ragged in the best way. The Stray Gators have got a really kind of strained and kind of half-born, weirdly emotional take on music, and it's got a great live feel to it. I think it's a grower. It's definitely a grower, and because it's not as vaunted, it's a lot cheaper than the others, but it's a cult favorite for those who are in the know. As is this record. This was introduced to me by Wayne. You know who you are. I was not familiar with it, and I've grown to like it very much. This is not one of Jimmy's original studio records. This is In the West. Kind of, I don't know how you would describe this. It's a very odd, I suppose, compilation, but it's more than a compilation. It's a I don't know, straight up pretty thrilling collection. Johnny B. Good, Lover Man, Blue Suede Shoes, Voodoo Child, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club's Band, his cover of Little Wing, and then, you know, the coup de grace, the last track on this, kind of worth the price of entry alone. The version of Red House on here is really quite something. So for those of you looking for a Japanese Polydor press of Into the West, that's pretty good. I've got a couple of Aussie records here that I've pulled out. I think actually this might be UK, but I'm pretty sure it's, ooh, maybe it is UK. The green chrysalis label has got me thinking, but this is a really, really nice copy of Jethro Tull's Aqualung. The proper gatefold in genuinely lovely condition. Actually, I think this is a UK press, you know. Has to be, because that green label was kind of a killer. Let me have a look. All rights. I will solve this problem before Wednesday, but I am sure that is a killer UK gatefold copy with the early kind of matte finish. Jethro Tull's Aqualung. For those of you who know what Jethro Tull's Aqualung is, you don't need anything more than to say this is a wonderful copy. I only have one. I suppose you could count Into the West Hendrix as a compilation, but this is also a compilation, one of the great compilations. This is the double LP Jam Snap. It is literally got everything that was good about the Jam. Also, kind of listening notes, story of the band. And then finally, I'm finishing with this, the Japanese first press of the debut album by The Cars. Again, if you know, you know. My best friend's girl. All right, there we have it. You know, usual smorgasbord of killer records. I love that Rolling Stones little showcase at the start, but the 40 Looks book is pretty awesome all the way through. Phil Collins, Neil Young, Jimi Hendrix, The Jam, The Cars. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com, or grab the form that's in the description below and give me your details. And, you know, there's about 550 members in the club now in Australia and New Zealand, one in the US. And yeah, I hope you find something to enjoy. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, invite your friends, and thanks again. Bye.